So my name is Laura Steele. I'm the Director of Education at Bike Walk KC. Thank you for coming to our presentation tonight. This is Bike Shop 101. I want to give a really quick first thanks to our sponsors, our very generous sponsors, which is Johnson County Public Libraries. They are helping us with what we're calling our warm-up events. So we have some other topics that we've gone through earlier in the year. We have them recorded so you can have access to those. But they are helping us put those on, as well as they are going to host the Women's Bike Summit, which is coming up on September 30th. And so if you aren't very familiar with that, it's going to be kind of a half-day event. It's free. And basically, you're going to bring your bike and you're going to become best friends with it. So we're going to do a lot of hands-on activities, not as much talking. That's what these warm-up events are for. And we will reference the warm-up events, but we will also have a lot of speakers that you can go and mingle with and talk to and continue to learn more things. So for tonight's presentation, what we thought that we would cover would be coming into a bike shop for the first time. Maybe you don't know what type of riding you want to do. Maybe you don't know the accessories that you need to get riding. And so kind of walking through what that interaction could look like. And here I have Renee. She is from Bike Stop. I'm going to let her continue to introduce herself, and then we'll get started.
Awesome. Well, it's exciting to be here. I'm glad so many of you guys showed up tonight. I am Renee Theory, and I work at Bike Stop. I've been there since 2015, and kind of an interesting background, I guess. My degree was in social work, and I was working with at-risk teens for a while, and then kind of needed a change, so I wanted to do something different. I was a little hesitant to work at the store. I was like, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not mechanically inclined. My husband had been working at the same company for a couple of years, but it all kind of worked out, and just kind of took that leap of faith and have had a really good time working at the bike store, and then also have had the opportunity to coach mountain biking skills, and used to coach women's mountain bike clinics with Roots Mountain Biking, and now I'm kind of just a volunteer coach for NICA. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of NICA, but it's a youth organization for mountain biking, and so I coach with the Lee Summit Sharks team, and have just kind of found such an awesome community with cycling, and I think that's what makes people stick with it for so long, is the community and the people that you meet. And yeah, so that's me. And we can go ahead and get started with your plan, yeah.
So we thought we would do a little bit of role playing here again. As somebody who's coming into a shop for the first time, so I will relive my first moments going into a shop and all the bumbling that I did. So that was about 2009 is when I first got my adult bike, which was a hybrid bike. Again, I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know the type of riding I wanted, and I ended up with that didn't work for me. But I also didn't have the type of assistance that hopefully we are going to be showing you is available from bike shop employees. So.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Hi, my name's Laura. This is my first time in a bike shop.
Okay, very cool. Well, what kind of riding are you looking to do?
I really don't know. I see a lot of people who, are riding on the road. I know there's a lot of trails in the area. Sometimes, I'd like to be able to go and go to the library and, pick up a book and ride my bike home.
Okay.
I'm really not quite sure what I want to do.
So kind of open to options, it sounds like. Yeah. So when you say trail, are we talking dirt trail, mountain bike trails? Are we talking more crushed gravel, pavement,
I have friends who like to do things on the Katy Trail or the Rock Island Trail.
Okay.
And I don't know the difference between their bike and any bike that I would ride on the road either, so.
Okay, awesome. Well, good news. We have options for everything that you want to do. So usually if you're doing more pavement, crushed gravel, that kind of thing, we would want to get into something that's kind of what we would call either maybe a gravel bike or hybrid bike. Usually they're going to have a tire that's got kind of some tread on it, or we can do a smoother tread tire here, but a little bit wider. So that way you have good traction if you're getting onto some loose terrain. And there are options too. So you can do anything from like an upright sitting bike where you're, in a more comfortable position, or something a little bit more leaned forward if you're okay with like a sportier fit. But yeah, those would be this would be kind of considered like a comfort hybrid. So a little more upright, a little bit more comfortable. This would be kind of a mountain bike. You could use it as a gravel bike. And then this one's going to be more strictly like your road. So you'll notice it's got a lot skinnier tires here. So that's going to be definitely for pavement. Probably not going to be super fun to ride on the crushed gravel because you'll be sliding around everywhere. So yeah, as far as kind of those positions, is there one that looks more comfortable to you?
I'm kind of going for color, but
Well, you have to like the way it looks too. That's important.
so tell me, I mean, if I was, to ride something that has, like, these have very straight handlebars, those kind of curve down, what is maybe the advantage or, the differences between those? I see that there's a lot more, looks like, hardware up here
Yep.
On some of the bikes. And so can you kind of help explain, like, again, I know I want options with my bike. And yes, I'd like to be comfortable. I don't have any, like, issues or anything like that, back problems or anything. So, I'm really open to suggestions, but I just, I don't know, is there a difference between, even the men's bikes or the women's bikes or anything like that?
Yeah, so with your flat bar bikes, you're going to notice here, this one's going to kind of hook back to you a little bit more. So this is going to bring you back, like I said, in that more upright position. And then also the frame itself sits up a little higher. So with flat bars, you are a little bit limited on where you can put your hand. So you're kind of in that one position, unless we put something like a bar end on it here, where we have kind of that secondary hand position to go to. This one's going to be a little wider bar. Since this bike can be used off-road, that gives you a little bit more leverage. So wider bars do help if you're kind of navigating tighter stuff. You can kind of actually get a little more leverage on the trails. This would feel a little more squirrely if you were wanting to do off-road riding. And then your drop bar is going to give you a lot more hand position. So you'll notice here, this is where you'll probably spend most of your time. And these are called the hoods. So that's going to be where you would have your hands so you can easily shift and brake. But you do have options. So you can, sit more upright if you're chilling and not in a group ride right behind somebody, because you don't want to do that and chill without your brakes right behind someone. But if you're by yourself riding on road, you can sit up here. You can get in the drops to get more aerodynamic. So there are a lot more options with the drop bar as far as your positioning. But there are things that can be added to a flat bar if you wanted to do like a bar end or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I know which bike fits me?
So
This one looks big. This one, I mean, the handlebars make them look big. Again, all the fanciness at the front makes it look big. How do I know which bike fits me?
So the biggest factor that we usually go off of is going to be your height. However, most people can ride, two different sizes. So my sister, for instance, she's 5'6". Sometimes a small fits her, sometimes a medium fits her. So it does vary. That's where it's really important to test ride bikes. We want to get you kind of in that ballpark. How tall are you?
I'm about 5'9".
5'9". So more than likely, we'd probably put you on like a medium frame for the most part. And you kind of asked earlier about men's versus women's bikes. So there's really no right or wrong to that. You can ride like a unisex bike. This one's a unisex bike, which I own. This one is a women's specific bike, which I also own, and I ride them comfortably and really enjoy them. With your women's specific frames, you are usually going to have a little bit shorter reach. They do also build the frames up and the geometry of them in order to kind of play to our strengths. Usually our strength is more in our lower body than our upper body. Men are usually going to be a little bit more able to kind of pull up on the handlebars, that kind of thing. So they'll kind of build the geometry around that to suit that a little bit better. But there's really no right or wrong there. I think the big thing is getting you in a ballpark of what size fits you well, and then doing test rides is really a huge aspect of that.
So these look like really flat saddles. So can you talk to me? Kind of, this one looks kind of nice and cushy, and this one has, some of these have
sure.
like some cutout of it. So can you explain a little bit to me about what I might like as a saddle?
Yeah, so kind of like you talked about, the handlebars on this are a lot more upright. So with that type of bike, with having a little bit wider saddle, we can kind of get away with that on a more upright position because your weight, instead of it being kind of more evenly distributed between your hands and your sit bones, which are the bones on your booty, in order for it to be more distributed on this bike, you're going to be sitting a lot more upright, so your weight is more in your sit bones. So that's where having a more padded saddle might not be a bad idea. You'll notice the handlebars are a lot lower. So your weight's a little bit more distributed. You're not going to be sitting as heavy in the saddle. Also, these would be what we call a little bit more of like a performance bike. So you're getting a lighter weight saddle. Most of the time, if you're riding the saddle, you're going to be wearing padded shorts. You won't be riding it just with regular shorts. And then you asked about the cutout too. So the cutout is really there to help like relieve soft tissue pressure and also just offer more like ventilation. There are options like this that have a full cutout, and then there are some, like that one itself even has a little bit of a groove. That one's more for like kind of tailbone. And then others will have like an indentation, but like a softer part here, so that way it kind of mimics soft tissue, and those are really another option that are pretty comfortable as well.
So, and I'm also now looking at like the pedals. It looks like I'm not used to those. But you have some nice flat ones here that I'm pretty used to. Why would I want to have pedals that look like that? That doesn't even look like a foot could fit on it.
So with your bike on the end, that's what we're going to call platform pedals. So with those, you can use tennis shoes. I prefer to use a bike-specific platform pedal shoe just because they're going to have a little bit more grip on the bottom and they're going to be stiffer than a regular shoe. Like your running shoes, you don't really want to necessarily wear those on the bike because they're going to flex a lot. So what happens there is you can get hot spots on your feet. Also, you're going to lose a little bit of your power pedal transfer just because you have that flexing constantly going on. And then when you talked about these here with the what we call clipless pedals, and there's different options. So this one's going to be more of what we call a trail pedal. So with that one, you're going to have a shoe that looks a lot like this. So it has surface area on the outside to walk on, and it's going to have a small spot here for a small cleat. So that cleat is going to lock into that pedal, and you get really good power transfer with your pedal strokes. It's going to help you on climbs too to kind of maintain a smooth pedal stroke. And then this one's going to work with more of a road shoe. Your road shoes won't have all of this tread on them. They're going to be a lot smoother and have a huge cleat on them. So that way, usually if you're doing a road ride, you're probably going to ride straight from the parking lot, do your road ride, get back in the car. Gravel or mountain, you're going to maybe be getting off a little bit, kind of out a little ways. Might have to get off and walk up a rocky section on a mountain bike trail. So it's nice to have a little bit of tread there.
Okay, because, it's kind of scary to think about getting stuck.
Yeah,
my pedals.
I think the key to that I always say is like practice in a parking lot or practice even on a trainer is kind of what I did when I first started. It was just like, all right, get on the trainer, practice, get used to it.
Okay.
Before you venture out on a mountain bike trail.
Good stuff. So you were talking kind of about padded shorts. Do I need padded shorts? What? Can I just buy my clothes from like Target or, what do you recommend?
So you can ride essentially in anything. I do like wearing the padded shorts when I ride. Basically, those are going to offer what we call a chamois. So it's going to be like a moisture wicking material on the inside that offers a little bit of padding where your sit bones are and also on the front where soft tissue would hit the saddle. And they're also going to be a little bit tighter fitting. So this particular pair is intended to wear alone, more of like a road style. So for like road riding, you do get a little bit more aerodynamic with this style. We carry what we call a liner, which I really like because you can wear them under baggy shorts or like even basketball shorts or whatever you want to, hiking shorts, whatever you want to wear. They're going to be a liner and they're going to be a lot thinner than this. So that way, if you don't want to wear just straight up spandex, you can totally go that route too. But I kind of like the bibs. These go up and over the shoulders and they just give a nice comfortable fit. So, but yeah, they help with like your like soft tissue and sit bone when you're riding on the seat, especially if you're doing longer rides. So, yeah.
So then, what about the top? Do I put the straps on over the shirt or
It'll go under. And you don't have to wear a bike jersey. Kind of the two components to this that you're going to get, or three, I guess, would be more aerodynamic. You've got the zipper here, so you can kind of have some ventilation if you want to while you're riding on a hot day. And then the big thing that I think a lot of people like are the pockets in the back. So, if you want to store your, flat tire repair kit or snacks or even cell phone, whatever, keys, it just gives you some storage on you in case you don't have any bike bags or anything to put them in.
Okay. So, now you're bringing up so many like new things I've never heard about. So like I have to carry tools and things like that. Like, how does this work? Because I don't know any maintenance. So, those are scary looking things to mess with.
Yes. So the one thing that's nice is it's good to get to know your bike. Every bike is a little different. Some are going to have different ways of taking the wheels off. Some are going to require a tool. Some are going to be like what we call a quick release, where you can just kind of pull the lever, slide it out. So getting to know your bike is really important. If you're wanting to practice like changing a flat tire, I do kind of encourage either one, go to your local store. A lot of times we'll show people if hey, can I make an appointment to come in and you show me how to change a flat tire, how to clean and lube my chain, whatever it is that you're kind of wanting to learn. Usually we can accommodate that as long as it's not like a busy Saturday or something and we plan ahead for it. And then as far as what you want to carry on the ride, I kind of have my big three that I always encourage people to do. First and foremost for me is a helmet. So your brain's important. Please wear a helmet when you ride. I will always advocate for that. Yes, you're not in control of what other people are doing if you're out riding your bike. And even when you think you're in control, I've hit the ground many a time. Mountain biking, I've hit the ground in a parking lot, like doing the silliest things. So wear a helmet. Second, I would say hydration. So always carry water with you. I do encourage snacks and food too, but obviously if you're doing a super short ride, you may not need to refuel till after. But hydration, and then you were asking about tools. So this is what I call like a flat tire repair kit. So this is just one option that you can use. So this has what we call a seat bag. That's going to go, you'll notice on those two bikes there, we have a seat bag and then like a tool wrap on the back of those. So they go under the saddle. And you'll have tire levers that you can use to take the tire off once it's flat. You'll have a spare tube, which I have down there, and then you'll want to carry air. So yeah, tire levers, spare tube, and some form of air, whether that's a CO2 dispenser like this one, which is super quick to air it up, or a hand pump. Hand pumps will allow you to have air as long as you are not tired from pumping, and these will be a lot quicker if you're in a hurry to get it aired up.
So I see you have, again, some more pedals. Like, what else do we have over here? Why would I want to wear gloves? Or, do I need to wear gloves? This is a lot more than I thought I needed.
Yeah, so I always like to say, like, these are the big three, right? These are the things that I'm like, okay, don't leave home without these. These are important. These get you on a successful ride. But there are other things that you can kind of ease your way into. I know it's a big purchase up front, but if you want to ease your way into some other items that will make your ride more comfortable. So necessary, more comfort, more personalized. So we jump into gloves. Like you said, you can do short finger gloves if you plan to ride on hot days and you want more breathability. But basically what you're going to get from that is, one, protection. If you go down, if you hit, pothole, something like that, and you slide, it's going to protect your hands. But it also gives you more grip on your grips. If you get sweaty, your hands might slip off. So you have the option of short finger, full finger. I usually wear full finger when I'm doing mountain biking, just because sometimes you might scrape against a tree or something like that. So having a little bit more knuckle protection isn't a bad idea. And then as far as other comfort aspects, you could go into grips. You could change them up. I've got these on that green bike over there. So they're kind of like a foam grip. Really comfortable. I like those a lot. And you can get others that have what we call like an ergonomic grip. So you're going to have a little bit more of a platform for your palm. And that keeps you from dropping your wrist, and which can cause your hands to kind of fall asleep. I don't know if anybody ever experienced that before, where your hands go a little tingly. So having something like that can be helpful, give you a little bit more support. And then if you have saddles, there are options, kind of like we talked about over there. You can do more comfort style, usually used for more upright riding bikes, or we can do a little bit more of like a performance saddle. And this is that one I was talking about that had kind of more of that soft insert in the front. So that way it's it's giving you a little bit of relief there without maybe causing numbness from having an entire opening.
Wow, I've got a lot to think about. So like I said, I'm still not decided. I still kind of don't know what type of bike I would like to ride or the kind of riding I want to do. What other options do you have for me to be able to understand maybe the type of riding I want to do without investing full on?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the big things you can do are, well, test riding first and foremost, find out what feels comfortable to you, kind of hone in on maybe a style that you like. And then there are options for used bikes too, at least at our stores, we have people who will do trade-ins. So they might trade in their used bike to buy a new one. And so you can get a little bit better price point for that sometimes. Maybe rent a bike, like there's options like that too. We rent out e-bikes at our store. So, that is another option that I don't have displayed here. And that would be electric bikes, which are really huge right now. Awesome. So they give you a little bit of assist.
Well, the other thing that I guess really just keeps popping into mind since we talked about it a little bit was like the maintenance. Like, what do I need to do to make sure that if I buy a bike like this, that I'm going to treat it right? What do I do?
Yeah. So the big thing, like I'll admit I'm not a mechanic and I'm not super mechanically inclined, but there are things that even if you're not of that mindset, you can do to help maintain your bike. So I kind of do what's called an ABC check a lot of times. Like when I coach the student athletes, we do an ABC check before every ride, and it's something you can do on your own too. So we do, A is for air. So check your air pressure, make sure everything's, feeling good there. But while you're there, check your tire tread, make sure that, you don't have any threads showing through or that it's not looking like it's dry rotted because that's going to cause you to get a flat. B is your brakes. So, roll the bike forward, grab the brakes, make sure they're engaging and that each brake lever is engaging evenly. If you feel like it's not engaging or like the brakes are, dragging when you spin the wheel, probably needs a brake adjustment. C is going to be for chain. So with your chain, and I can even pull this out to show, I guess. So yeah, with your chain, you're going to want to lube your chain, and different types of bikes will require it more frequently than others. Usually if you're riding gravel or like any of the crushed gravel trails around here, you're going to end up having a bike that looks like a powdered sugar donut. So you want to make sure to clean that off. And there is bike-specific lube. So you don't want to use like motorcycle grease, like motorcycle lube, that is too thick. And you want to use something that's bike-specific. Regular old WD-40 is not going to cut it. Usually it's too thin. It's not going to stay on there when it gets like dirty and stuff. So yeah, clean lube the chain. And then while you're doing that, you can kind of check it, make sure there's no links in the chain that are like twisted or anything like that. While you're down there, you can check your derailleur, which is this part here. And there's a piece called the derailleur hanger. This connects your derailleur to the frame. When you stand behind the bike, you can look and see if it looks straight. If you look at it and see if it's in line with the gear that the chain is in, you're probably good. If it looks like it's cocked in towards the frame or out, probably ought to get that straightened out, because the thing we see all the time is it gets bent on a rock, people pedal, shift it into their easiest gear, which is this one here, and it blows through their spokes. And then not only do they have to get a new derailleur hanger, but usually either spokes replaced or something of the sort there. So, and then E is for everything else. So you just kind of check, make sure things are tight.
So, okay, I'm not used to these types of, what is this? Like, is that the brake? What,
Yep.
what is that? I'm not
Yeah, so I
familiar.
think all of the bikes we have here are going to be disc brakes. There are options that come with like a rim brake, so they would be mounted here. And then the part, this is hard to do with a microphone, the part that holds or grabs the brake is called the caliper, and that's going to be this piece here. And then this is going to be what's called your rotor. So this is going to be braking on a metal rotor, and disc brakes are better in like dusty and wet conditions. They give you a little bit more power, more stopping power. They're more similar to like what a motorcycle would have, things like that. So the older style of brakes would would break here on the rim. There's nothing wrong with those. They just, if it gets wet, sometimes it can kind of glaze over and you grab all brake and your bike keeps rolling. So it can be a little dangerous if you're riding in the rain. So I do prefer disc brakes.
Well, like I said, I've got a lot to think about. We tried to cover a lot of questions that I know people had been asking. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to turn this over for you guys to be able to ask your questions of Renee. If there was something that I asked that, or if there's something I didn't ask, we'd like to give you guys the chance to be able to ask your questions.
And let me come through with the mic if you have a question so we can pick it up on the audio. Yep.
So you were talking about like what would be the best depending on what type of activity. But what if I want to do multiple activities, types of activities, but only have so much money for one bike? Is there something you can talk to about like changing out tires or just getting one that's going to be a little bit more versatile?
Yeah, definitely. So I usually would kind of ask, like, do you plan to ride any off-road? And when I say off-road, I guess I mean more like single track. If you plan to ride single track where we're talking like rocks and roots, like trails near here would be like what, Shawnee Mission Park trails, like the mountain bike trails. If you're planning to ride something off-road like that, I would suggest getting more of a mountain bike. And then you have the option. The nice thing about a mountain bike is you can kind of do anything with that. So that's what I first started riding on, and I love it because you can ride mountain bike trails, you can ride gravel, you can ride it on the road. It's not the most efficient thing on the road, but it works, But you can also go with a lower profile tire. Like this tire I have on here is more of a gravel tire. You could do a little wider. You could even go maybe a little narrower than this and kind of make it work for everything. If you don't think you're going to be doing any off-road at all, there are bikes similar to this. It would be like a gravel bike that already start with a little bit narrower tires, so they'll be more efficient for the gravel riding. And you could put like a smooth tread like this if you're doing just gravel and road. But if you're going to get one bike, I usually just say get a mountain bike. But you don't have to. It's like the most versatile bike that you could get.
So where does a hybrid bike fit in there? Is that like a mountain bike, or is it a cross, or what is that?
Yeah, so hybrid is kind of a term that I guess it's more used for like kind of comfort bikes like the one on the end, or more kind of city bikes would be the term that hybrid means. But honestly, a gravel bike is also a hybrid. It's really any bike that kind of has dual purpose, I would say. You can do more of a comfort style like that. They make flat bar bikes like this that come with a little narrower tire. That would be like a mountain hybrid. The tire would be more like, maybe half the size of this. So yeah, hybrid mostly means like kind of a dual purpose bike. And there's all sorts of styles. You can do comfort, mountain hybrid. There's more like city ones too that have a skinnier tire. So yeah.
Can you speak to how high the seats should be? And do you do seat fitting? Can you fit bikes to people?
Yeah, so at the purchase of a bike, we always walk through kind of getting you on the right size, obviously, is the first step. And we do that by test riding, watching you, seeing, like I said, most people could ride two sizes if they're kind of in between them. But with your seat height, we're usually looking for a slight bend in your knee when you're at the bottom of the pedal stroke. So like when this pedal is all the way down, I want just a slight bend in my knee. And then we also try to see, like, the seat, you can move it a little bit more forward or backwards, too. We don't want your knee coming out all the way over where your foot kind of hits the pedal. So we look for that as well. So most bike stores will do just a generic fit like that. Get your seat height set. We do offer at our Martin City location like a more in-depth bike fit. You can do kind of the standard bike fit or a 3D bike fit. The 3D bike fit is going to be very in-depth. They're going to take into account your flexibility, range of motion, any injuries you've had, and then kind of put all of that. They're going to connect all these little things to you and do a video. And then it's going to let my coworker Scott lets him know like what areas maybe are reaching or overcompensating, and then you can kind of dial it in there. So I do encourage that. If you plan to ride quite a few miles, it's definitely worth doing the 3D bike fit.
Would you recommend shopping with your significant other?
It depends, honestly. Yeah, it depends. I've seen, couples come in and it's a great experience. They're both excited. They want to buy bikes together and they're kind of encouraging each other, and they, maybe want to do the same type of riding, so they're going to get the same bike. So it can be really good, or it can go south and one significant other can talk over the other. So I always try to address the person that is purchasing the bike and ask them what they want to ride. I think a lot of times I've seen where a spouse might interject and try to kind of, say, well, they want to ride this or they don't need anything like that. But just if you ever go into a store and somebody doesn't address you, the person that's getting the bike, come to Bike Stop. We'll take care of you.
I just want to know if you have a big selection of shoes at Bike Stop, and you're in Lee Summit, right?
There are 3 locations. There's Lee Summit, Blue Springs, and Martin City.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as shoes, there's all sorts of options.
Big selection.
I would say our Lee Summit store probably has the most selection of shoes right now. Yeah.
How do I know when it's time for a new bike, a different bike?
Once a year for the rest of your life. No, I would say it depends. If you bring a bike in and we're getting it checked in for a tune-up and we're breaking down everything that it needs and it's going to cost more, kind of like your car, right? Like, if it's going to cost more than what this bike is worth, unless you just have like a really strong sentimental value with it, probably time to let it go, because if it's sat for a while, the cables can get all gunked up and we might end up having to replace tires, cables, do a full tune-up. That can get a little pricey. The other reason you might consider a new bike is maybe you've outgrown what this bike is capable of. You talked about how your first experience, you got a bike that didn't really work for you. So you might start out on a comfort hybrid, and the next thing you know, your friends are doing a triathlon, and you're like, I want to get a road bike, So there are ways that we can make your current bike work for what you're doing. So don't think that you have to get a brand new bike to go do an event. We can usually make it work. We can put skinnier tires. We can do things to lighten it up, make it more comfortable for a long ride. That's always an option. But if you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm ready. I want something a little different, a little bit maybe more competitive, or maybe you want a different style. Maybe your friends are doing a different type of riding. That's usually a good signifier that it's time to upgrade.
I'd like to be able to do more like errands with the bike and carrying stuff. That you can put a basket in the front, old school, or racks and panniers. Can you put that on any bike, or do you need a special, how do those things go on a bike, and what's the safest or most, seems like if you have a lot of weight, what's the best options for that?
So I would say, if you're going to be putting anything super heavy, I'd usually put it on the back of the bike and not where you're steering. For baskets, you want to carry mostly, I would say, fairly light things in it. As far as racks go, you'll notice on this bike on the end, it actually has a spot here where the rack can screw into the frame, whereas this one does not. This is a carbon seat post, so I probably wouldn't put the seat post. They do make seat post racks that can go around the seat post and come out. So those are a nice option if you're not going to be carrying anything super heavy. Those can't handle quite as much weight as one that's attached to the frame. So in that case, when I've done longer rides, I have a really big seat bag that I put on, and that has worked. I've done overnights and shoved shoes and all sorts of food and all sorts of stuff in there. So that's an option. If you're on more of a commuter style bike or a hybrid, usually those are going to have, or even just a gravel bike that's not carbon or titanium. If it's more of an aluminum frame, you'll usually have the option to put a rack on it.
Sort of on the or connected to the when do you have a new bike? When do you replace parts on your bike that you currently have? Maybe it's somewhat new but somewhat old? Like, how do you know when it's time to replace the chain, for instance?
Yeah. So I usually encourage everybody to, if you're, hey, I want to be at-home mechanic and I want to get all the tools and stuff, that's cool. Like, get a chain checker. You can check your chain. You can check it for stretch and see if my brain's not working right now, but see if it's the rollers and everything have started to like stretch out. It'll measure and show you. But if you're like, hey, I don't want to buy all that stuff and do all that at home, I usually suggest doing a tune-up like once a year on your bike, just because, even if it doesn't really need much, we can at least lay eyes on it, lay hands on it, and check the chain, check your tires, and just check like cables and stuff like that. That's one of the things that people will sometimes start to notice, like, oh, it's not shifting as good as it used to. It's kind of dragging, And so usually that means it's time to get new cables. Or if you have what we call hydraulic brakes, these actually have fluid in here. And so instead of a cable, and so it'll be where you're like pulling this and it's like coming almost all the way back to the handlebar. That probably means it needs to be what we call bled. So you would put new oil in there, or mineral oil.
Is there about a price range for a tune-up, like what to expect, so you're not like sticker shock for the first time?
Yeah.
Like, what's a reasonable?
I would say, kind of from the research I've done, most stores start around like $90 to $100 for a full tune-up on the bike. And like ours is $90, and that includes adjusting the gears, brakes, clean lube the chain, true the wheels, so basically make sure they're rolling straight. We'll adjust the spokes, make sure they're straight. Tighten every fastener on the bike. And then there are other levels, beyond that. There's like one for $150 that you can do all of that plus a deep clean on the bike. For $300, you can do like an overhaul. They're going to take everything apart. They're going to re-grease all the bearings. So, that kind of depends. Like, how much did you pay for the bike initially, right? So if it's a pretty high-end bike, yeah, okay, I might do this $300 tune-up. If it's your very first bike that you bought at the department store, hey, maybe do the $90. Save up to upgrade, if things are starting to wear out on it.
So I have a couple questions, can you explain a little bit more about the pros and cons, or how I would decide whether or not I wanted, like an air-filled inner tube style tire, as opposed to, I've heard some that are like run flat, I think is the right term, something like that. Can you explain a little bit more
for sure.
those differences?
Yeah, so this particular bike here is going to have a tube in it. And can you grab that and just pull that tube out of there so we can show it? So the tube is the part that's actually going to hold the air, and you'll see there's a valve here that we would use to air it up. So that's going to be kind of the old standard of what was always on bikes for a long time. However, kind of starting in I would say it started mostly in mountain biking. There's what's called tubeless tires, and so they're going to have no tube, so they don't have any insert. They're going to have just the tire and sealant in there. And what that sealant does is if you get a small puncture, that sealant comes to the surface, it hits the air, it dries out and hardens. And usually, if it's not a super huge hole, you can keep riding and not have to take anything apart. You can also do what's called a tire plug, which I don't know if I have any on this bike. I don't think I do. But if you get a bigger puncture, you can do a plug in it just like you could a car tire. It's just like a smaller version of it. And that's another way to kind of keep you rolling without having to stop and disassemble everything. But even with tubeless, you can still take it all apart, dump out the sealant, and put a tube in if worst comes to worst. But tubeless allows for a little bit better ride quality, plus the flat protection. So with a tubeless tire, you can run a little bit lower tire pressure. And what that gives you is, especially on a mountain bike, it's going to give you better traction. With a tube, you're going to have to air it up a little higher so you don't get a flat from hitting a rock or something. So the tubeless allows you to run lower tire pressure, better traction, more comfortable ride. So if your bike is capable of it, I suggest it. I've had a lot of good luck with the tubeless. It saved me on a lot of rides. But not every wheel set is going to be capable of it. So you could ask your shop and just say, hey, are my wheels capable? And go from there. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Laura, are there any programs for people who want to learn basic maintenance?
So we at Bike Walk KC, we do offer maintain your ride classes. At the beginning of the year, before we started our warm-up events, we actually have a mechanic who's on our staff who comes and he does, like Renee was saying, basically he goes through the ABC quick check and he talks to you about the specifics of your tires and your air pressure, the pressure valves, how to maintain them. He goes through every of it. KC does offer those maintain your ride classes. Again, when we come to the summit, we're going to have some hands-on experience doing some of that maintenance work. And I do know that there are shops who will offer kind of a maintain your ride type offering. And so those might not be as regularly scheduled or, but yes. And there's obviously a lot of videos out there. I don't know, Renee, how much you recommend people maybe watching videos or whatnot, but
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm more of like a hands-on learner, so I feel like just watching someone, I think watching a video and doing it at the same time is probably good. I've had a lot of customers have good success doing that. Just getting on YouTube, how to change a flat tire, and you can practice, as long as yours isn't tubeless, because that'd be messy to practice with. But if you have just a standard tire and tube, take it apart, practice, That way when you get on the side, because it's always worse, right? When you're out there in the middle of a ride or a race or something like that and you get a flat. So like if you can practice under calm circumstances, it'll be a little easier when you're under not so calm circumstances.
You want to do some show and tell and have folks get up and take a look at some of the products and lay hands on the bikes and yeah.
You guys have any resources to kind of give us for group rides that are more favorable to women and educating and whatnot?
Yeah. I know through our store we do monthly ladies rides. So we do like crushed gravel trails. We've done road rides. We try to mix it up each month just so we can kind of accommodate different styles of riding. I know you guys lead a lot of rides. Like this coming month in August, I think we're doing a mountain bike ride at North Shore. It's a Blue Springs, Missouri trail, since it's closer to one of our stores. Yeah, our Facebook page, we upload those group rides that we have every month. And then, whatever you guys have going on too.
yeah, last month we did an inclusive ride groups presentation. Amber here is from Party Pace Peddlers. They meet on Monday nights, and it's a very relaxed ride on Rock Island Trail. And so I would encourage you to also look at that. We can send that link to you as well. But there are a number of women's rides out there that are women-led. Trying to think. We also had women-led cycling. They run on Wednesday nights, and so they have a no-drop ride. They meet in Waldo. There is.
I'll resend that list with all of their either Facebook, socials, website, whatnot, and we'll recycle that information from the last session because we learned about new groups that we hadn't heard of too. So,
yeah, there's a lot of resources. You're going to find lots of friends out there, lots of options. Any other questions? Yeah, as Amy suggested, I think if you want to come up and look a little bit more closely at the bikes, maybe at some of the accessories, that might spur a few more questions or whatnot. Renee, if we have no more questions, thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Thanks.
But I do encourage people to come up, take a look at the different styles of bikes, ask questions. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And so being curious and just asking even about some of the smaller things, like what does this do and why is that like that versus that, come and use our resources as much as possible.
Yeah, thank you guys all for being here. This was a lot of fun.
So again, on your tables, you have these little cards. There's a QR code on the back that will link you to our warm-up events that we've previously had. Next month is our keynote speaker. So Sarah Loring is going to be our keynote. She is she's a wonderful person. I don't want to give away too much, but both through physical and just, her professional work and things that she does here in Kansas City, she's quite an inspiration. So we encourage you to come and hear her speak. The summit, again, is September 30th. It's free. It's going to be here. It's going to be in this room. Again, you're going to become best friends with your bike, so bring your bike. And then after that, we do have one more event where Marley Blonsky is coming in October. And so she runs the All Bodies on Bike chapter out of Arkansas, out of Bentonville. And she's going to come and she's going to speak with us. We're going to spend some time with her. Love to have her do a podcast here. So be on the lookout for those things. But take the little cards with you. Again, that'll link you to that information. And thank you again for coming.